and thank you for joining us. My name is Lawrence Lang, and today I've travelled to Cheshire to spend some time with Pamela Field, who was with the D'Oyly Carte from 1972 until 1975, and then returned for the final season in 1981-82 when, unfortunately, the company closed. Pamela, good morning, and thank you for agreeing to talk to me.
Good morning, Lawrence. It's really nice to welcome you to my home.
Thank you very much. You studied at the Welsh College of Music and Drama and later at the Royal College of Music. Did you have any exposure to Gilbert and Sullivan before you joined the company, or did you come to it fresh?
I came to it fresh.
Right.
I was trained classically and studied oratorio, lieder, song and opera. The only GNS song that I'd learned was Poor Wandering One.
All right. So we've mentioned your musical background, but how did you actually come to join the D'Oyly Carte?
If I go back a little bit further than that, I'd like to say how I started singing, because it was purely by chance. I was in the junior school and there was a teacher there called Jeff Price, and he sent for my mother one day to say that I'd be singing Mary's Boy Child in the Christmas concert. And that was the first we ever thought about me singing. And he used to teach me singing. He asked my mother if it would be all right with her if he taught me singing in my lunch break. I'm saying my mother. I did have a father as well, but he just tended to ask my mother. And he used to teach singing in my lunch break and carried on with that until I went to the grammar school and he went to another school to become headmaster. He was so important to me because without him I would never ever have thought of singing. Then one day he said, I've taught you all I know. I want to suggest that you go to a proper singing teacher called Mrs. Linwood Christopher, who had moved 10 minutes away from me from Nottingham, and she'd gone to Mountain Ash, which is quite near Aberdare where I lived, and she used to teach at the Welsh National Opera School in Cardiff and also the Welsh College of Music. And so sadly I left Jeff Price, but when I look at it, how it was such a wonderful opportunity, because I studied with her throughout my singing career, and that's why I went to the Welsh College of Music, because she taught there. I would like to have gone to the Royal Academy, but I decided that I wanted to stay with Mrs. Linwood Christopher.
Right.
I couldn't have had a better teacher, which I found out later because I did my LRAM, all my singing exams, and she put me in for the Young Welsh Singers competition, which was the turning point for me to give me the opportunity to become a professional singer, because the Young Welsh Singers competition was a very big opportunity. It had a money prize plus at least 10 fee-earning engagements, and they were really wonderful engagements in places like Llandaff Cathedral, big concert halls, doing oratorio, opera, and lots of concert work. I did love classical singing. And if she hadn't given me such an amazing technique, I would never have coped with performing all the operas in D'Oyly Carte. And then later on, when I went on tour with another company to perform for 6 nights a week in a theatre, and my 7th night at the Bournemouth for summer shows. So to sing for 7 nights a week for months on end, I couldn't have done it. So looking back on my life, there are 2 people there who I couldn't have done it without, and that's Jeff Price and Mrs. Linwood Christopher, and of course I have to say my parents, who did all the right things. They paid for me to have dance lessons, piano lessons and singing lessons. But if you don't mind, I'd like to step ahead here in
Please
case
do.
I forget.
Yes.
that Jeff Price he was the accompanist of a male voice choir. And he always said that he wanted to book me as the soloist for their choir when I was famous enough to be with a top London agency. And this happened, I'm not exactly sure of the date here, but when I was with Ibsen Tillett in London, the agency, he booked me to sing with him with his choir, and we were both really looking forward to this. This was years later, and I went back on the Friday night. I hadn't seen him for years, and he came to my parents' house to play for me on the Friday, and we had a rehearsal. On the Saturday, I went to knock on his door at the place where he lived, which was in South Wales, called Ynysybwl. And I was the guest soloist at his annual choir concert. And I knocked on the door, and someone answered the door to me and said, "I'm really sorry to tell you this, but Jeff Price was just putting chairs in the concert hall ready, and he's had a heart attack and died." And that was at the age of 39. Oh, so I was so sad that this man that I would never ever have thought of singing, that we'd lost a chance to perform together. So yeah, the people there that I couldn't have had any career if it wasn't for them, because living in a place like Aberdare was a small town in South Wales.
Yes.
And for me to have had the opportunities to go and do what I did without these two people and my parents, I would never have done it. Yeah. And then joining D'Oyly Carte, this was another chance thing, because after the Young World Singers competition, I still had a lot of work. But I should go back again, that after I left the Welsh College of Music and Drama, I trained as a school teacher. And after I left, as I was just saying, my father came from Windsor, and I went to live with my family in Windsor and had a job teaching at Langley in Slough. All right. And junior school. And then I met David at the Young World Singers competition, which was after I'd been teaching. And so I decided to stop teaching full time, and we went to live in Strathmore Gardens off Kensington Church Street. And David went to the Royal College Opera School, because after training at the Welsh National Opera, that was the progression that he went to the Royal Opera School. So he said, "Will you marry me and come with me?" So I did, and that's how we both went to London. Then I was teaching part-time at a school in Hammersmith, music. And I was also fulfilling all my concert engagements after the Young Welsh Singers competition, travelling from London. And then one day my mother sent me a cutting from the Western Mail newspaper, which said, "D'Oyly Carte are looking for singers." I don't know why she did that, because I had never been interested in Gilbert and Sullivan, and why she thought we'd want to join a company when I was happy doing what I was doing. But anyway, she did, so it must have been fate. And David and I went along to the audition, and I found a letter here which says that we'd both been for an audition, and would we both like to go to another audition that we are holding at the Savoy Theatre at 11 o'clock on Monday the 21st of February. On this occasion, they're asking David to sing from the Pirates of Penzance, and for me to either sing Poor Wandering One, The Hours Creep On Apace, or Kind Sir, You Cannot Have the Heart. As I said, I didn't know anything other than Poor Wandering One, so I did that.
Poor wandering one, though thou hast surely strayed,
And that's when, at the end of the audition, Frederick Lloyd said that the principal soprano would be leaving at the end of the year, and would we like to join the company, and for me to understudy principal soprano roles, to do small parts and to study in the chorus. And I did find that first year really good training, because getting to know the Gilbert and Sullivan roles from the chorus point of view and seeing how the principal roles fitted in with everything was great training for me for when I eventually took over.
Because I've always felt that the chorus are such an important part of the Gilbert and Sullivan operas. They're like a principal in themselves, really, aren't they?
Yes.
The impact that they have on the
Yes,
running of
that's
the
right.
whole show.
Yeah, because each chorister has a role to play with facial expression and with the crowd scenes and
Especially
so on.
in something like the Sorcerer or Yeoman, where you have sort of individual characters.
That's right. And as you know, at the end of the first year, I had a letter from the company asking me to go on as Elsie for a matinee performance to see what they thought of me performing the principal role.
Right.
So obviously they thought it was okay, because then they gave me the principal roles to take over when Linda and Hutchison left. And you've just mentioned Yeoman of the Guard and the crowd scenes, and when I was actually performing as a principal, Elsie, we were at Stratford-on-Avon, and some extras from the theatre company at Stratford were joining in the crowd scene, and obviously they were actors in their own right. And John Reed and I had just come on as Elsie and Jack Point, and I was just about to speak after the lines, "What is this pother?" And one of the extras with a sword or a spear was fighting with me on the stage, And I was trying to fight back to tell him I was about to say my lines. "May it please you, sir." And he kept fighting me with such enthusiasm. He pushed me off the stage with the crowd scene. So I ended off in the wings, still trying to tell him, but I should be on there. He felt he was doing an amazing job with his acting skills. And once I was in the wings, he went off to his dressing room, really happy with his performance, I'm sure. And I rushed on to speak to John Broad to say, "May it please you, sir." So that was an incident in Yeoman.
Yes. Oh dear, oh dear. Enthusiasm getting the better of everyone there.
Yes, that's right.
You joined in 1972 as a chorister and principal soprano understudy, covering both the roles of Julia Goss and Linda Ann Hutchison. Did you have any short notice substitutions into one of those principal roles? That awful moment when you walk into the theatre to be told, "Tonight you're on as so-and-so."
Yes, I did.
All right.
At the end of the first year, David and I were sitting in a restaurant opposite the New Theatre, Oxford.
Right.
And David said, "I'll go and check in the theatre to see if you're on," which is something you had to do if you were an understudy.
Right.
So he went across to the theatre and came back and said, "I've just seen Michael Hayland, Jimmy Marsland and Julia Goss outside the theatre, and they've said you're on. Julia's lost her voice," which is a thing that never happened. And so it was a bit of a shock. And the part was Aline in The Sorcerer. And Sorcerer wasn't performed very often, so there weren't many rehearsals. And it wasn't something I was really happy about doing.
Oh dear.
But I went over to the theatre and Ralph Mason was there, and he was amazing because he helped me through the evening, and I did get through it. But it was one of those, I don't think this is going to happen with Sorcerer, but it did.
Oh, the on-stage interrelationship with Ralph playing Alexis was so important, wasn't it? So it was great that he was there to help and support you.
Yes, it was, because although I'd worked on the role, I hadn't worked a lot, and so it was trying to remember everything, and I think we probably cut out a few bits of dialogue in between, and Ralph Mason knew this, and so he was able to keep the flow, and I've got to give credit to him that he really did help me to get through it.
When you joined, did you find it easy to learn all of the operas in a relatively short period of time, and also having to learn the principal roles as well? And I was going to say, how well were you supported in this learning process? You were obviously supported when you actually got onto the stage from what you were saying there about the Sorcerer, but leading up to that, how much support did you get during the rehearsal periods?
I didn't feel that it was a problem learning everything, because I think I had done a lot of work before joining D'Oyly Carte. I did operas and just a lot of things where I had to learn things at short notice. And Jimmy Marsland taught me the stage directions, but luckily, being a musician and able to play the piano, I was able to work on the roles myself.
Oh, that's good, yes.
Regarding the different characters, you were allowed to use your own interpretation to make them believable. I know that every move was set, and I've got all those moves in my GNS book. I still have them, where Jimmy Marsland was saying, "Move stage right, put your foot here, do this hand gesture." But reading...
Jimmy's name comes up a lot when I talk to people.
He was the producer.
Sounds as
he
though...
was assistant director?
And he sounds as though he was a major force in helping people.
He knew everything.
To get onto stage.
He knew it all.
Yes.
And he really did help. But regarding the roles themselves, I used to read through them and see what I could do to make them come to life and believable, and not to play them as everyone else had played them, but to bring a freshness to the character. And although the performances we had a lot of the same performances night after night. And whenever I went on, I always tried to rethink the character to give it a freshness so that people who attended, the audience who came to see the performances night after night, would not be getting stale performances, but an injection of a freshness, as I've just said, into the performance.
So in 1973, when Linda Ann Hutchison left the company, you took over most of her roles. Were there any of the Julia Goss roles that you would really like to have taken on permanently?
No, I have to say nothing.
No?
I liked the roles that I was given, and in fact all the other roles I played after I'd left the D'Oyly Carte, so I did get a chance to play Mabel and Yum Yum and the plaintiff. So there was nothing.
No, all right. So the D'Oyly Carte was on tour for 48 weeks a year. Did you enjoy life on the road, and do you have any memories of being in digs, or were you one of those individuals that travelled around by caravan?
Yes, we did enjoy touring, and I'm saying we because I was married to David Porter, who was a chorister and principal understudy. Well, it worked well for David and myself because we were touring together. We didn't have a caravan, and I think that made a lot of difference because we were able to drive to different places. Regarding digs, some were good and some were bad. One or two bad ones, I should say, were in Scotland. The first one was in Glasgow, and we used to get up in the morning, and a lady had rolled balls of butter every day for breakfast, which was not very nice because we could see they were individually rolled as they were all different shapes. Then another time we stayed in Scotland, and in one of the very old apartment blocks, and when we arrived there, the lady said her husband, sadly, was suffering from a nervous breakdown. So we went into the very big dark hallway where there was an upright piano, and then she showed us into our room. After the show that night, we went home, and in the middle of the night, I woke up and I saw two oval lights, two small oval lights, above the wash basin in the corner, and the room was very cold. And I woke David up, and he could see them as well. At the windows there were some very heavy drapes, and then I heard some bottom E flats being played on the piano. So David turned the lights on and turned the fire on in our room and went out in the hall into the hallway to check. And when he came back, he couldn't see anyone there. We weren't sure if her husband had been playing the notes, or we didn't really know what had happened. So we went back into, well, I didn't go into the hallway after Anecdotes. I don't know why I said we. David went, and he
Send the man.
Yeah, he volunteered to go. And he came back in, and we stayed there for a while with the lights on and the fire on. And when he turned the lights off, the lights had gone. So there were two oval lights above the wash basin. The room was very cold, and we heard some, what I said were bottom E flats being played on the piano in the hallway. In the morning, we left the apartment and we met Royston Nash, the musical director, and we told him about it, and we never went back there again because we were really nervous about it. There might have been an explanation about it. Maybe there were two holes in the curtain that let lights in, and maybe it was a clock that played the bottom E flats. We will never know, but it unnerved us enough not to want to go back.
So, as you say, there might have been an explanation,
Yes.
but you weren't that keen to find out.
No. But on the other hand, we had some really nice accommodation. We stayed with Graham and Dorothy from Hale near Altrincham, and Ruth and Jen, who were fans of the D'Oyly Carte, and they used to let us stay when we went to London. So we got some really nice places. Some other not so nice places, we used to turn up and there were smashed front doors and people saying, well, one occasion we were just leaving in the morning and the lady came out after us and said, "I cooked you breakfast." So we went back in and there were 2 greasy breakfasts in a cold oven which he'd switched off ages ago. So yeah, but on the whole we just took it all in our stride.
Yes.
I forgot to mention earlier that we did have our cars lost a few times when we were on tour with D'Oyly Carte. We turned up at Liverpool to the theatre and parked on waste ground. And when we came out of the theatre later, we didn't know where we parked, so we were wandering around Liverpool, strangely enough, not too far away from where I'm living now. I didn't think I'd end up here. But yes, and another time we'd been performing at the De Montfort Hall in Leicester, and we joined some of the company afterwards to go to an after-show party.
Right.
And when we got back to the De Montfort Hall, they'd locked the grounds and our car was locked inside, so we couldn't get it until the morning.
In 1973, the company recorded HMS Pinafore as part of ITV's Christmas entertainment. Do you have any major recollections of that experience? I understand it proved a little difficult playing to an empty studio.
I can't think that I found it a problem, but the only one thing I thought was having to sing to a recording and to make sure when you were miming that it was exactly right.
Yes, because the soundtrack was done in advance of the images being done. Yes. It was a shame that was the only opera that was recorded. It would have been marvellous to have had a permanent record of some of the other D'Oyly Carte productions. You were with the company in 1975 when the Centenary of Trial by Jury was celebrated with a 2-week run at the Savoy, with each of the operas being performed in chronological order. This must have been quite a stressful time learning new pieces, as well as revising other shows that had been out of the repertoire for a while. And you also took the principal role in both of the eagerly awaited and anticipated productions of Utopia Limited and Grand Duke.
Yes, with Utopia Limited, I think that it must have been quite a bit to learn because it was a big role, and thinking about it, it was only scheduled to have one performance. I had to learn the role for that, and then for the recording, obviously. But because there was such a demand for tickets, I think it surprised the company, and then they arranged to put it on for 4 extra nights, so it made it all worthwhile. And not only that, I realised that it was making a bit of history because it hadn't been performed before.
Definitely.
And to be given the opportunity to perform it for the record of having Utopia Limited was a really fantastic opportunity for me.
Yes, I was lucky enough to be at the Savoy for that production, and then I sort of came along for one of the Festival Hall productions. So yeah, I really enjoyed that production. Do you have any major sort of recollections of the production? The item that most people refer to is the camel.
Yes, I was thinking of that. The camel with the long eyelashes.
Yes.
Yeah. And the picture of Ken sitting on the camel, which is the one on the record.
Yes.
Yeah. But it was really a wonderful opportunity to be in that production. It was a lot of work to learn it because it was an unusual plot about me taking the flowers of progress back to introduce them and flushing your thoroughfares and something.
Oh, and flush your drains. Yes.
Yeah, not your usual kind of dialogue. But David was Mr. Blushington in that. I have to say, Meston Reid was really lovely to play opposite as Captain Fitzbattleaxe, and that lovely duet Sweet and Low was beautiful.
And from Act 2, here is that lovely duet with you and Captain Fitt's battle axe.
Words of love too loudly spoken ring their own untimely knell. Noisy vows are rudely broken, soft the song of farewell. Whisper sweetly, whisper slowly, hour by hour and day by day. Sweet and low as accents holy are the notes of lovers' Sweet and low, sweet and low, sweet and low as accents holy are the notes of lovers' are the notes of lovers' Let the conqueror flushed with glory bid his noisy clarions bray. Lovers tell their artless story in a whispered virelay. False is he whose vows alluring make the listening echoes ring. Sweet and low and all enduring are the songs that lovers sing. Sweet and low, sweet and low, sweet and low and all enduring are the songs that lovers sing, are the songs that lovers sing. Sweet and low, sweet and
So you left the company in 1975. What did you do after you left?
We left because David said he was fed up with touring
Right.
48 weeks out of the year and just wanted to do something else. I decided to leave too and work on my voice and audition for something like Glyndebourne because that is really what I wanted to do.
Right.
But it wasn't to be. As I found out, looking back over everything, there seems to have been a pathway which has led me down the pathway that I've taken, although it wasn't the one I would have chosen. As I said, I wanted to do classical singing, but I'm not saying I haven't been really grateful and happy with everything I've done. So a week after leaving the D'Oyly Carte, David had seen an advert in the Stage, which was advertising for singers, and so he wanted to go and audition, and I remember walking behind him in London, just going for the sake of going because David wanted to audition. So when we got to the place where he was to sing, he did his audition and came out and said Alexander Bridge, who was the director of West End Artists, had just asked him if he knew of any principal sopranos leaving D'Oyly Carte, which I thought was a very weird thing for him to say. We had met Alexander Bridge when we were on tour because they were on tour at the same time at a different theatre. And so when David said, well, yes, Pam is waiting for me outside, they said, oh, can you ask her to come in? So I went in and they asked me to sing poor wandering one, but I didn't have the music with me.
Right.
Because I wasn't expecting to sing. So I sang something else. Don't forget, this is a week after leaving D'Oyly Carte. And so they offered me the role of Melitza in Glamorous Night, which was an Ivor Novello show. And so we ended up touring again. And so that started a different period in my life, because when I was trying to learn Glamorous Night, this answers a question you asked me earlier, which was, did I find difficulty learning the G&S roles? I did here, because we had only just left D'Oyly Carte and I had all the G&S roles going on in my head. And to try and learn the role of Melitza in Ivor Novello's Glamorous Night so soon after leaving D'Oyly Carte was very difficult. We started rehearse at King's Theatre in Southsea, and the flat we rented was on a very busy road, and I did find it very difficult to learn my words with such a noise. So I did the unthinkable, and I asked David to go and say I wanted to withdraw from the show. But he came back and said they wouldn't listen. They wouldn't accept it. So I stayed and learnt the role, writing out all the words, line after line, until I learnt it. But that was very difficult. And it was a very big part, with Melitza being on stage for most of the show, after rushing off to change costumes 13 times.
Goodness.
Following Glamorous Night, I was asked to play Cathy in The Student Prince. This was 1976. Then Mitzi in The Lilac Time and Margot in The Desert Song. And while working on these shows with John Hanson, he also asked me to sing in songs from the shows every year for about 7 years at the Pier Theatre in Bournemouth. So I used to be performing somewhere in the country Monday to Saturday, go home to Aberdare, travel to Bournemouth on the Sunday, rehearse in the afternoon, do the show in the night, go back after the show and go to wherever I was going on the Monday. David did one show, Glamorous Night, but he didn't do any more.
Right.
He decided he didn't want to. So my father found him a job.
Right.
In Newport as director of a hi-fi business, which really suited David because he loved it. But I was on tour on my own. And then this leads me to another period of my life, because I was at the Wimbledon Theatre and Robert Bowman from Radio 2, the producer, came in to see the show, to see John Hanson actually. And he actually met me and he gave me lots of work.
Oh, good.
As guest artist for Friday Night is Music Night, Among You Souvenirs, Melody's View, International Festival of Light Music, Royal Festival Hall, and at the Queen Elizabeth Hall, a series of Gilbert and Sullivan operas from the Barbican Centre, a Walt Disney Spectacular from the Royal Albert Hall, which realised another of my ambitions to sing at the Royal Albert Hall. And I did a lot of work for him, so he was very influential as well. And
so more opportunities coming your way,
yes,
as
that
we said.
was
Wow.
taking on for years. Following D'Oyly Carte, 6 or 7 years with touring and songs from the shows. Then Robert Bowman with the other Radio 2 work, and we did Walt Stream, Vina Blut, Madame Favart, Frederica, Merry England from De Montfort Hall in Leicester for St George's Day. And I actually qualified as an English person for St George's Day because my father was from Windsor.
Oh, yes.
And my mother's family came from Cornwall, although she lived in Aberdare and her father was Welsh, but her mother wasn't. So I was able to go authentically and sing in Merry England, which I really did enjoy that.
Excellent.
And then I did a lot of other concerts for someone else I met through Robert Bowman, who was an agent, and she used to give me a lot of concerts in London as well. And I did concerts at the Ulster Hall in Belfast. And then I started to sing for World of Gilbert and Sullivan.
All right.
With Andrew Meadmore and Pat and Norman Meadmore. And so one of my most memorable performances was when they asked me to sing Mabel in Pirates for Frederick's birthday at the Royal Albert Hall. That was magic.
Oh, yes.
And I often think back on that, and I have a recording of me singing "Ah, Leave Me Not to Pine Alone" with Philip Potter singing it. So, yeah, I really do. I have a poster of Royal Albert Hall with me and others performing there. And that was amazing. I did go to do 2 tours of the Netherlands with World of Gilbert and Sullivan, and I must tell you this. When I flew out to Amsterdam, either Andrew, I think it was Andrew Meadmore, met me at the airport, and he said, "I hate to tell you this, but in the programme you're alternating certain dates with another soprano, and there should have been an asterisk after your name, but there was a sign like a cross, which means departed, death, deceased." So I didn't feel very happy about that, but I got over it and the show went on. So another wonderful experience from World of GNS was to go on the QE2 join their world cruise. So we went to Hong Kong, South Korea, Japan, Hawaii, and then
the list is endless.
Yeah, and then I did cabaret at the Savoy, not with GNS, but I did cabaret at the Savoy Hotel and the Connaught Rooms. I did Old Time Music Hall with Hiss and Boo, and then I did Iolanthe with Brent Walker playing the part of Layla.
Yes.
I have to add, and I don't often say this, I didn't enjoy playing that part because they wanted me to send up the part of Layla as a Welsh fairy, and it might be for some people, but it's not for me.
No.
Don't forget, I had D'Oyly Carte training, and I just did not believe in pulling things apart. No. And I tried not to make it as Welsh as they wanted me to. Because
Gilbert and Sullivan is funny in itself if you just take the dialogue and listen to the dialogue. It doesn't need to be messed around with.
So I had to do it because it was asked of me, but I didn't feel happy doing it. So after I left the company, I played Yum Yum, Mabel, Aline and the plaintiff, roles I didn't play in the company. So I was very lucky in what I did. I sang with Stuart Burrows on his TV show, so I have a recording of me singing one of the songs from his shows. Yeah, I've got to say, I'm really appreciative. You can see the people who's helped me.
Wow.
And how things have gone step by step.
Yes.
So, yeah. And then I went to California for 2 tours with a male choir. And a lot of things happened on that tour, but I loved singing there. The accommodation, one would think...
Sorry, you say you went with a male choir?
Yes, I was the only female.
I was going to say, how did that happen?
Well, I knew the musical director,
Right.
and he asked me to go as a soloist, and they let David come with me.
Oh.
So we both went to California. The accommodation I had, that's another story. It had a lot of problems. But I'd like to add here, one thing that I did in previous years was to be asked to sing as soloist for Eton College.
All right.
And I have a letter here which says, we don't normally do this, but on this case we need a soprano soloist who could sing L'Allegro by Handel. So I went and did that. Only me with all the male singers, the Eton College boys. And then they asked me to go back to do a C Symphony, Vaughan Williams.
Right.
So that was amazing. But when we went to California, yes, there were so many things that went wrong with our accommodation.
Oh dear.
But the good was we met some amazing people. It was a wonderful experience. It fulfilled another dream I had of singing in America. So we went to San Francisco, Los Angeles, Reading, San Jose. It was shown where a year to the date of the earthquake in San Francisco.
Oh, yes.
I can't say we weren't scared,
No.
going over the bridge at the very time, the very day, a year later. So yeah, I did had wonderful opportunities. And then we came to the point where David and I say, maybe we should think about having children. And so I had my wonderful daughter Jane, and we moved to Cheshire last year. She got married to her lovely husband Evan, and they have a duo called Kodiak Avenue, and they do modern country singing. They got a lot of concerts in this area, and they've had a baby girl who is 9 months old now, and so I feel very, very fortunate, Lawrence.
So finally, what would you say was the main memory that you can take away from your time with being with the D'Oyly Carte?
We went to Rome,
Right.
and we performed at the Teatro Olimpico. That was lovely because we got to see a lot of the sights of Rome, the Vatican, the Colosseum, the Roman Forum, which was lovely. I'm not sure what the Italians made of Iolanthe and Mikado. I was in Iolanthe Phyllis.
Right.
Because of the translation. I think it must have been very difficult if you were an Italian sitting in the audience to hurriedly translate from English or Japanese for them to understand it. But we enjoyed...
Because they're quite difficult sometimes for
very,
English people to understand.
Yeah, that's right. And then we left Rome to go back to snowy Bradford.
Oh.
So that was interesting. I feel very lucky to have worked with such wonderful, cooperative artists as John Reid, Ken Sanford, Ralph Mason, Meston Reid, John Ailden, Mike Rayner, Lindsay, Peggy Ann, Pauline Wales and Betty Lloyd-Jones. It was the time of all those fantastic artists that were so great to work with, and they were like a family. But I was very upset one day because an interviewer came to the dressing room to ask me about patience, and when she was leaving she said, "So you're like one big family?" Which I said, yes. And when I saw the headlines in the Sunday Telegraph, it came out, "No stars, just one big family." And I was really upset because in my eyes, of course, John Reid and Ken Sanford were the stars. And so I went to John in his dressing room and I apologised. And I said, "I'm so sorry that this has happened. I didn't say that, but this is as it's come out."
How it gets interpreted.
And he said, "But darling, we are like a family and we all work together." And as I've just said, there was such a lovely, warm, friendly group of people. And I was really lucky to have known them. And sometime later, in 1982, when I was singing in Songs from the Shows concerts in Bournemouth, we used to stay with John and his partner Nicky at the hotel they owned at Alum Chine. So other memories I've got to take away with me, of course, was the recording of Iolanthe and the recording of Utopia and the film of HMS Pinafore, and that the Queen and the Duke were supposed to attend a performance of the Gondoliers.
All right.
And unfortunately the Queen was ill, and so she couldn't come, but the Duke of Edinburgh still came, and Prince Andrew came with him. So although I was in the company for just a short period of time, a lot of very important
a lot of things happened.
Things happened, and also the Centenary
Yes.
season. And I was very lucky to be in performances there in the West End. One of my ambitions that I'd wanted to perform in the West End. So that was really good.
Gave you that opportunity. Yes. Yes, at the centenary night of Trial by Jury, Harold Wilson came on stage talking about how much he loved the D'Oyly Carte and Gilbert and Sullivan. Unfortunately, little knowing that in about 7 years' time the company would close. So you actually came in as a guest artist for that final season. What parts did you play during the 81-82 season?
Well, very strangely, and I don't know why this happened, I was asked to go back as Aline in The Sorcerer.
Oh, right.
And
So where it all started.
Yeah, because I never actually played the role. But I went back and played Aline. I don't know what else I played. I'm not sure, but I have a list of everything, but I can't remember. I might have played, and I'm saying might have played Phyllis in Iolanthe.
Right.
I don't know. But I know I played Aline because
Yes.
I've got the letter from
Right.
Peter Riley, which says, further to our telephone conversation, I am writing to confirm we should like you to play the part of Aline in The Sorcerer from Thursday, February the 4th. Quite a lot of performances. 10th, 18th, 20th, all the matinees and evenings. So, yeah, very unusual.
It must have been quite emotional, though, singing in that 1981-82 season, knowing that the company was about to close in February.
I have to say that I felt really emotional for the company that was there. But I had already left.
Yes.
And I had done a lot of work after that. So I was really involved with so many other performances that I had done, that for me I was going back as a guest and not really as a member of the company. Of course, I didn't think they should have closed, and I've seen Peter Riley say about the opportunity that the Arts Council had to save them and how sad it was that they didn't. Well, of course it was, because it was a wonderful institution, and what they had to offer was something no other opera company had, which was the authenticity of having everything Gilbert and Sullivan had wanted their performances performed in the style that they had written them. So yes, it was very sad.
And it was also an impact on provincial theatres, because they lost another 2 or 3 weeks bookings that they would have had.
So thank you for letting me say how lucky I have been with everything that's happened. Thank you, Lawrence.
Well, thank you. This has been a really enjoyable discussion to find out about what you did during your time with the D'Oyly Carte, and then your life after it, a very full and interesting life. Pamela, thank you so much. As I say, it's been a delight to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you.